So let's continue our session. So as we said, we start inshallah talking about the prayer as a first pillar. So for the prayer and for each of the worships we are going to talk about them from 5 different aspects. First one is the conditions. Second, obligations, recommendations, dislikes, and nullifiers. Conditions, we mean the things that are not parts of the worship itself, so not parts of the prayer, but they are necessary for it to be valid. And if you lose any of these conditions, your prayer is not valid anymore. The obligations are the actions that are uh, uh, obligatory for the player, and if you don't make any of these actions, or don't make any of these obligations, your prayer is not valid. And same for other worships, inshallah, in the future. Recommendations, things that are you better do. If you don't do, your prayer is still valid. However, it's not complete, let's say. So it's just make them to complete your prayer. And the dislikes, things that you better not do. If you do, your prayer is still valid, but again, it's not complete, so it's better not to do them to complete your prayer. And nullify things that if you do, then your prayer is invalid anymore and you have to repeat it. So let's start with the conditions of a prayer. So the prayer has, for a valid prayer, has 4 conditions. First one is cleanliness. Second one is covering body or aura. And the third one is the entry of time, so we have to pray in time. And the fourth one is to face Qibla while we are praying. We will talk about each one of them in more details now. So let's start with the first conditions, which is the cleanliness. When we talk about the cleanliness for the for prayer, we talk about 2 types of cleanliness, what we call the cleanliness or cleaning the physical impurities, or what we call taharat al-khabath, like cleaning of the khabath or the physical impurity, or taharat al-hadath, or cleaning of the hadath or the incident of generating this impurity. So let's talk about the first part which is like the physical impurities. We have to clean our body, clothes, and the place from any physical impurities. So we have, when we're going to pray, we have to make sure that our body, clothes, and place are uh, completely clean from any of these physical impurities. So let's know first what are these physical impurities. The first thing is wine or alcohol, or what's called in Arabic al-khamr. So anything that you can drink to make you drunk, in principle, like wine, beer, whiskey, whatever other things. So it's considered as physical impurity. So if you have if you get any of these in your body or in your clothes, you have to clean them before you pray, and you cannot pray on a place on a ground where there are traces of wine, beer, or whatever on the ground. Uh, then we have the animal waste and the animal milk, and then we differentiate between 2 kinds of animals: animals that can be eaten, and animals that are not allowed to be eaten, whether they are disliked or forbidden. So it's not recommended to eat in, and or even haram to be eaten. For the first one that they are allowed, it's recommended that you clean. So for example, like cows and sheep, etc. So for example, if you are working in a farm, there are traces of the animal waste um, on your clothes, for example. It's fine to pray with them, but it's better to clean them just to be in a better status. But it's not like, it doesn't nullify your prayer if you pray in a clothes that with a little bit of waste from the cows or the sheep, or the same for milk as well. But if it's pigs, or if they are cats or dogs, so if there is any waste from pigs, cats, or dogs, or any milk from cats, pigs, and dog, then it's actually forbidden to pray in these clothes, or in a place where there are these impurities on the ground. A human being is considered also, the human waste is considered as this animal waste. So you shouldn't, if there is a human waste on you, or on your clothes, or on your uh, on the ground, shouldn't pray as well there. You should clean them first, and we will talk inshallah about cleaning the human waste later in a few slides. Um, but a human milk is considered as a pure material, not impure material. So if there is a mother who is breastfeeding and there are milk, uh, breast milk on her clothes or something or in her body, then it's fine. That's not something that's impure. She can pray in these clothes with traces of the milk. Then what we call the animal parts. The animal parts are any parts that are taken from an animal, whether it's taken from has been taken from the animal while it was alive or after it dies, like skin of an animal or the ivory or the bones or whatever. These things are not considered clean or not considered pure. So, for example, if there is something from from the leather of an animal, you cannot pray on it or while you're wearing it, or for example, the ivory, for example, there are some rings of ivory or something like that. So if you have a ring of ivory, you shouldn't pray while you are wearing it. So you should take it off your hands before you pray. However, we have an exception for the parts that have no life. And we here talk about life as a feeling. So the sign of life for the Maliki school is a feeling. So if there is a part of a human body that has no feeling, then we don't consider it as an alive part. So, like for example, the hair. So, for example, if somebody cuts your hair carefully without touching you, you will not feel it. That's why we consider the hair as a part that has no life. So, for example, we can take the hair, the wool, the fur from an animal, or the upper parts of the feather from a bird without the animal or the bird can feel any pain, and then it's fine to, for example, make a cloth out of it and pray with this cloth, or make a rug out of it and pray on this rug. The dead animals, we if they are not slaughtered. So if they are slaughtered, and we will talk a lot about slaughtering animals when we talk about food and drinks, what is allowed or not allowed from food, or the halal food. So if the animal is slaughtered, then it's fine to consider the parts out of it are pure. However, if the animal is not slaughtered, then its parts are not pure or are impure. So any parts of a dead animal should be cleaned from the place where you pray, for example. Same as human being. So if there are parts of dead bodies, they are not considered pure. Okay, pure parts. Finally, the blood. So, and here we talk about what's called poured blood or الدم المسفوح of all animals, even the slaughtered one. So, for example, if you are slaughtering a sheep or you're slaughtering a cow, and this sheep or cow, the blood of the sheep and cow comes on your body or on your clothes, then you have to clean them before you pray. Even your own blood. So, either a human blood, whether it's your own blood or your, like, for example, you work as a doctor and you had uh, like yeah, some of the blood on your trace of blood on your body or on your clothes, you have to clean them. Or for example, you have a wound and the wound made a trace of blood on your body or in your clothes, you have to clean them before you pray. However, there are some things that we can override or things that can just overlook them from these impurities. For example, like small stains of blood. For example, you had a very small wound in your finger or something like that, and it makes a small stain of blood on your clothes, then it's fine to just pray in these clothes without changing them or without cleaning them. Um, or, for example, some stains of flies or mosquitoes. You had a mosquito on your clothes and yeah, you killed it. It makes a small stain on your clothes and it's fine. Also, for example, if there is a mother that has young kids, like that's changing diapers for them, for example, or a babysitter that works in a child care or something like that, and she has to change diapers for a lot of kids, and there are some stains from their urine, for example, or whatever on her clothes, then it's fine. if it's difficult for her to change, of course, because if she's working full time in a childcare and she cannot change her clothes 2 3 times to pray during her work, then she can just pray in her work. But if she can change, of course, it's always better, etc. Of things that can be difficult for them, like a butcher, somebody like is working as a butcher, and there are certain stains of blood on his clothes, and it's also difficult for him to change clothes every time he prays during the work. Then it's also fine to pray in these clothes. When we talk about cleaning body from impurities, so we can either use solid materials like the toilet paper, so it has to be pure and dry material, and it's only when the impurity is not spreading, like someone who has uh, like diarrhea or something like that, and he cannot like clean it with only paper. He has to wash it with water, and then you just use water. And it's also better to use water actually if possible. Then we talk about the incident or the hadath of uh, having the waste. The hadath or the incident, we can consider it as a minor hadath or as a major hadath. The incident or the minor hadath is like having going to the toilet, having the human waste like the urine and stool, having a broken wind, and there are two more, mainly for men, what we call a madhi al-wadhi. Al-madhi is something like, if I try to find an English translation, it's called the Cowper's fluid or the pre-ejaculation fluid. And al-wazi, or it's like a white liquid that comes after urine. For wazi, you have to do and nothing special. For the first one, so like urine and stool, you just make istinja, and then you make wudu. For broken wind, you don't even need to make istinja or anything. You just need to make wudu afterwards. For this pre-ejaculation or Cowper's fluid, you need first to clean the penis with water, and then you make wudu, and for was you don't have to make anything special. Then we have the major incident, which we have three things: the janaba, the menstruation, and the postpartum. Let's talk about it in more details. The janaba in Arabic means closeness. So it seems like it's like because a man and woman are close to each other's, for example, for their intimate relation, and that's why it's called janaba or closeness. However, the action of janaba or this major incident can happen by one of two things: either the ejaculation with desire from a man or from a woman, whether they are awake or asleep, or if as long as there is an ejaculation and there is a desire, then it's considered janaba. Or there is an intercourse between a man and a woman, even without ejaculation, that's also considered janaba, and it's considered as a major incident that needs to wash the whole of your body after it. The other thing of the major incidents is the menstruation. Menstruation, of course, or like the monthly period of women when they have blood discharge. Uh, when we talk about menstruation, we know, of course, it's like some blood discharge that comes to the women every month. And the some usually women have like certain fixed number of days of menstruation every month. However, sometimes it's not as fixed or as usual. So first, you have to wait until the blood like disappears, and whether it's red, orange, or yellow, or whatever colors. Um, However, sometimes it doesn't disappear after few days. So what is really the maximum time during it you cannot pray or you cannot fast or you consider yourself in a menstruation? If it's the first time you get a menstruation, so if there is a first time that a girl gets menstruation, then we wait for 15 days before we consider it as what is called istihada, or a continuous menstruation or bleeding. So after 15 days, if the blood discharge doesn't stop, we consider it as this condition of bleeding or istihala. However, if a woman has a regular menstruation, so for the past few years she used to have a menstruation, for example, of 5 days, and then uh, once she got a menstruation, and after 5 days didn't end, and then 6 day didn't end, and the 7 day and the 8 day, so she waits 3 days after the regular. So like if she has normally it's 5 days, she waits until 8 days, and then she uh, start praying and fasting normally, as we consider it as a bleeding and not administration. And that's why we here say that's like the condition or like the status of bleeding or continuous menstruation instead of normal menstruation. If you exceed the maximum time that we talked about here, or if you can distinguish between colors. So if, for example, it's you normally have this, or you start the period with this dark red, for example, and it starts to be a bright red color, or you normally get dark red and you suddenly get bright red, for example, that's also something can be considered. If you are sure, for example, for sure. If you are not sure, just use the maximum time to know whether it's menstruation or bleeding. Then finally, we have the postpartum, which is the blood discharge from women after giving birth. It can be like for 1 or 2 days after giving birth, but also it can stay for long time afterwards. The maximum time for this discharge is 60 days. After that, a woman, if there is still blood discharge, she still have to continue. She can uh, restart praying and fasting again after 60 days, even if there is still some blood discharge. So if there is a person with hadas, so a person went to the toilet or a person had janaba or major hadas, what he can or what he cannot do. For the minor hadas, a person cannot pray, cannot touch the Quran. And here we talk about the printed Quran, not, for example, like a Quran in a mobile phone, or some verses of Quran that are written in a book, for example, or something like that. But we're talking about really a printed Quran. A person also with minor hadas cannot go for tawaf around the Kaaba. Uh, that's for the minor hadath. For the major hadath, you are not allowed even to enter a mosque, and you are not allowed to read Quran even from your heart or from your mobile phone. However, here we have an exception for women in their period, that they can read the Quran, especially if they're memorizing, not to forget what they are memorizing. If you have a hadath, you remove the hadath by having wudu, and as we said, like to clean yourself from the hadath. So if you remember in the beginning, we said that we have to clean from physical impurities, that just to remove any physical impurities from our body, clothes, and place, but also to have cleanliness from the incident. So if it's a minor incident, we clean ourselves by having wudu. If it is a major incident, we clean ourselves by having ghusl or showering or washing our whole body. So for wudu, sorry, for wudu, we have it's just to clean some specific body parts of our body in a specific way. It has 7 obligations. First, the intention, so that you should do the wudu intentionally. It's not like you put some water in your body by accident, but intentionally you are doing that wudu. You have to wash 4 parts of your body: your face, your arms, your head, and your feet. Uh, and the way we do it, or the form, I will attach a video, inshallah, to this video. I will put the link of this video in the description, where you can see how the wudu is done. Another obligation of wudu in the Maliki school is rubbing while you're having the wudu. So you should rub your arms, you should rub your face. So it's like not only getting a water on your face, but actually you should rub your face. Not only pouring water on your arms, but actually you should rub your arms. And finally, it should be continuous. So it's not like you clean your face, you go for 5-10 minutes, and then you come and continue. No, you have to continuously doing it. You can have a short break. For example, somebody's ringing your doorbell and you want to open the door in a minute or less than a minute, or you have somebody is ringing your phone and you want to uh, yeah reply to him very briefly, like in less than a minute. Tell him like, yeah, I'm having wudu, I will call you later or something like that. That's also fine. But having a 5 minutes goal, or you go to your doorbell and you spend 5 minutes on the door, that's not. You have to repeat to restart wudu from the beginning. Um, Then there are the recommended actions for wudu that it's recommended that you make, but if you don't make it, it doesn't make your wudu invalid. There are strongly recommended actions like washing your hands before you start having wudu. So first you wash your hands with water before you start wudu, rinsing your mouth and nose, as again we will show in the video, wiping your head from the back to the front, and wiping your ears using new water, and to have an order. Here in the Maliki school, we consider the order between washing your face, arms, head, and feet is only strongly recommended, but not obligation. Some other schools of thought are considering it obligation, but here we consider it only as a strongly recommended action. What we learn from that is that, for example, you were having wudu, you forgot to wipe your head, and you already cleaned your feet, you already washed your feet. Then, based on the Maliki school, you can just wipe your head, and that can be considered as a valid wudu, because order is not obligation but strongly recommended. However, if it's an obligation, you should have repeaten the whole thing. Then there are 10 actions which are less strongly recommended, or they are what we call fada'il wudu, like to have wudu in a clean place. You say Bismillah, and you use siwak, and you use siwak, before you start wudu. You start from the right to the left. So first, start with your right arm, and then you start with the left arm, and then you make the left arm. You should make it 3 times as a fada'il. Of course, it's very strongly recommended to make it 3 times. So if you only wash your face and your arm 1 time, that's enough. However, it's recommended to make it 3 times. Of course, it's also recommended to save water while you are having wudu. And you order also between the recommended actions like rinsing your mouth and nose, and finally wiping head again. After you wipe it from back to front, you wipe it again from the front to back. As I told you, I will have a video in the comment and in the description of this video. I will add a link of another video where you can find a practical description of wudu. After you have wudu, you can pray, for example, or you can touch the Quran, etc. But what can nullify your wudu and what makes you have to repeat your wudu again? So you had your wudu now, you want to pray after 1 hour or something. What can happen in this time, for example, to nullify your wudu? First, of course, hadath is again hadath, as we said, like going to the toilet or having a broken wind, etc. If you have that, you have to repeat your wudu. But there are also some what we call reasons for hadath. So it's not hadath by itself, but it can be a reason for hadath. One of them is unconsciousness. So if you lose your consciousness because you faint or because you sleep, then it's the reason, because you may have broken wind while you're not feeling that. However, the scholars distinguish between what is called the deep and the light sleeping. So, for example, if you are sleeping while you are you're not really sleeping, you're just having a little bit of slightly sleeping, but you're still aware of what is happening around you, then it's fine. But if you are really not knowing what is happening around you, not listening to the people, or you're not hearing what's happening around you, then it's considered as a deep sleep, and then you have to repeat your wudu after that. Touching, like for example, a man touches his wife with pleasure or after a desire, or feeling a desire or with desire, that's considered as a reason for to nullify wudu. Here, of course, there are different differences between different schools of thought. Like some schools of thought, for example, consider any touch between a man and a woman is nullifying to the wudu, whether there is a pleasure or a desire or not. Others say that any touch, whether there is a desire or not, it's not nullifying your wudu. Here in the Malik school, we distinguish between touch without a desire, without a pleasure, that's not nullifies the wudu, doesn't nullify the wudu. But if there is a touch that's with a desire or with a pleasure or some desire generated out of it, then it's nullifies the wudu. Same. Finally, another third reason is a man touching his penis. Finally, if you have a doubt, so if you like, if you had wudu and then you want to pray afterwards, and then, and yeah, you forgot, did I lose my wudu in between or not? Did I nullify my wudu in between or not? So usually we would say, yeah, go with what you think is correct or what you are sure about, whether it's the wudu or the hadith. But for prayer, because it's the most important obligation in Islam or the most important worship in Islam, so we say no, just to be more careful, go and repeat your wudu, except if it's happening very frequently, like every day, for example. It happened at least for you once that you forget whether you have wudu or not, so you just neglect such doubts that come to your mind. Then if you want to remove your major incident or the major hadath, you remove it and you clean yourself afterwards with ghusl or bath or taking a shower. Again, there are 5 obligations here. Having intention, to make it intentionally, to wash your whole body with water. So you have to get the water from your hair up to the bottom of your feet and your toes. So make sure that the water touches and the water comes to all your body. You make sure even that it goes between your hair. So if there is a person like a woman or a woman with a long hair and this hair is really thick and long, you have to make sure that the water really gets inside the hair. Also here we talk again about rubbing, so you should rub your body while you are pouring the water, not only pouring the water in your body, but actually you should rub it. And of course it has to be continuous. So it's not like you wash part of your body, you go for doing something and you come back. No, you have to do it in one single session. There are some recommended actions. So there are 5 strongly recommended actions, like washing hands before you start, rinsing your nose, rinsing your mouth, and wiping your ear using new water. There are less strongly recommended actions, like again doing the bath or having the bath in a clean place, saying Bismillah before you start, removing any physical dirt from, for example, ejaculation before you start, and starting from the right part of your body to the left part of your body, with rubbing and with pouring water. You wash your head 3 times before you start, and to make wudu as well before you start, and to start from top to bottom and to save water. As the form of, as we said, we start from right to left. So you pour water in your body, you rub your body while you're pouring water from the right part and then the left part. Of course, there can be some places in your body which is quite difficult to rub, like your back, for example. So if you can have a tool to rub your body with, to rub your back with, that's better. If not, just then do whatever is possible for you. And of course, take care of the hidden parts of your body, like the armpits, the behind your knees, etc., of the place that the water may not reach directly, but you have to really make sure that it reaches them. So that's the end of our first session. I hope you find it useful, and see you inshallah next time to continue talking about prayer. Again, you can find a link of the video that describes the wudu practically in the description of the video. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.